It's the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Dave Perkins, is back on the pod. He is safe and sound in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Nate, this is probably the most chaotic tournament for a lot of reasons in my recent memory.
Yep.
I have so much going on. I was in the booth with Charlie Eisenhood all weekend. You were on the ground for both divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack this. How are you feeling right now? I know that can't be a green screen behind you. You're in the swamp right now, aren't you?
I'm still in the swamp, man. I got gators to my left. I got cottonmouths to my right. My feet are swampy. I'm ripe, man. It got so humid out there this final day, and the last 2 days were crisp. I mean, I would say most of the year, most of the summer, spring, summer, probably into early fall, like a disc golf tournament here would be like almost unthinkable because of how hot and how humid. They have sandflies that come out here in a few weeks, even in mid-April to mid-May. They have sandflies and it's like uninhabitable. It's the feat of even hosting a disc golf tournament here is insane, but the feat of pushing live disc golf to the world is just unthinkable. I can't believe we just pushed a live broadcast out from where we were. I mean, we're like 30 minutes kind of south of the city, maybe 25 minutes from like the French Quarter, kind of southwest a little bit. We're like right up against the Bayou Barataria or Barataria. We're near a national historical landmark, a swamp. We're near a swamp. And they drained the swamp. They literally drained the swamp and brought in like 200 grand of sand and grass, and they made a world-class disc golf venue for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So like as crazy as everything was out there, like we have to remember where we're at, uh, as like we zoom out and just remember where we're at, where disc golf is at, and the accomplishment that was the Big Easy Open this week, Brian.
I heard from so many people you couldn't make a phone call out there. Was that true, Nate?
Zero service. If I wasn't like connected to one of our pucks, which is what the Disc Golf Network employees use to stay in the camera call to get their cues where to film, if I wasn't connected to that, there was zero chance I would have been able to hear anybody or have any phone service. And that was only made possible because the Jefferson Parish actually, I don't know exactly the number amount, so I won't lie here, but tens of thousands of dollars the Jefferson Parish put just toward getting the Bearcom service out there to make this even feasible. So that's they I think approached 700K total for how much
Wow.
investment that they have put into this property for this tour, and that's how much they believe in the future of disc golf. So it's an absolute miracle that this event happened, and I really feel that this is going to be one of the staples on the Disc Golf Pro Tour moving forward.
Well, let's dive into that right away. It was the talk of the week. It was the talk leading up to this tournament as well. One of the few like disc golf course design celebrities, people of enough clout to be able to come on and do all the walk and talks, do all the podcasts. Everyone wants to get a piece of him when they're playing a course that he's designing. I used to wait as a 13, 14-year-old kid for the PDGA magazine to come in, and I would flip as fast as I could straight to the John Howe course design article. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world that somebody loved disc golf enough to imagine what was possible and how we challenge people and how we sculpt the land to make disc golf an even more special game. And John was doing that and has been doing that for a long time. But then going into the event, it was actually kind of shocking to me that when I talked to Silas for the first time, he goes, it might be a little bit too hard. And then I was just so curious about how the event was going to go down. You were on the ground for both divisions. FPO looked pretty fun. Scores showed that it still played really tough. What was the chatter throughout the entire week, start to finish? And did it change?
Well, the chatter was not great. There were a lot of players who had a lot of really strong opinions about some of the lines out there and how there were some trees, a lot of trees left that could have been taken out, and that some of the asks of the lines were just too much. And yeah, some of the latter parts of the holes just weren't clean, and that it was just too hard. And that was from FPO and MPO. Both divisions kind of felt unanimously. They said it was for sure the hardest course that they'd ever played in competition. But more than just difficulties, a lot of people were saying, like, it's just not quite ready. Not quite like that was the language Ginneber used. It's not quite ready. Isaac Robinson was like, it's almost there, but there's some drastic changes that need to happen. Like Holland wasn't even sure that anyone was going to shoot under par for the tournament, right? And she ends up, what did she shoot, Brian? 9 under
I
for the
think,
tournament.
yeah, 9 under par with a 2 under
Nine under.
final day.
Next closest was one down. One down was second place. Um, Now you asked me, did those opinions change over the weekend? I feel that they did because of simply how special the setting is. I think that when you're practicing and you're playing this insanely hard course and you're like, "Are we really gonna play a Pro Tour tournament here?" It's easy to get frustrated and to kind of, those opinions, just it's time to share those opinions, get them out there. But then the tournament comes and yeah, it's hard, but the environment is incredible. When you're walking up those fairways, it was 70 and sunny and low humidity, and there's like unlimited ryegrass in a cypress forest. It's kind of hard to really like bitch and moan about anything because it's so special. And so I really felt like I wasn't hearing players just complain all week, right? They're like, I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked to be in New Orleans. This is great. There's freaking alligators, there's pelicans. And yeah, so the chatter kind of shifted as the tournament got going.
On our side, we didn't know what to make of it at first. Charlie and I were sitting there and we started to kind of hear all this stuff come in. Press conference happens, heard some not so nice words about the track. And we were kind of laughing, like, I don't know what's going to happen now because it feels to me, and I said this on the broadcast, like when Northwood Black first got redesigned, it went from Northwood Gold to Northwood Black. That course was rough around the edges. That was brutal. And initially, during the practice rounds, I heard some of the top players in the world saying, I don't know if anyone's going to finish under par in this course. And then somebody shot 6-7 down, I think, first round, something along the lines of that, and showed everybody that pro disc golfers just are too good to be challenged by even a course like that. Yes, it's challenging, but they're not going to shoot even par as the hot score. I don't know if MPO course design has ever gotten there. Um, if anybody listening to this has heard of a course like that, that was extremely hard to the point where it was gimmicky, I'd love to hear about it. But I went into it with an open mind. Normally, I know what story to tell when a broadcast starts. I know what course we're playing. I know where all the landing spots are. I know where all the rough is. I've probably been in all the rough at the course. I know the distance as well. Here, they're giving me a drone flyover. I don't know where to draw. I'm getting messages from people like, "Hey, could you use the what is it called? The transcriber?
Telestrator.
Telestrator, sorry. My brain is fried. It's 10 p.m. on Sunday after the tournament. Can you use the telestrator more?" And I texted a couple people like, "No, I don't. Yeah, I can't. I
I don't know
need
where to draw, dude. And
sometimes."
and you're right, Brian. You're right to because honestly, you could try and land there, but if you're 2 feet left or 2 feet right, it's over anyway. So Telestrator, I felt like was kind of out the window.
So I used it a little bit more throughout the week because what's interesting about any sort of John Houck course, especially this one, this is like the steroids version of this type of design. There's so many gaps, and there's so many lines that you could throw, so many options on some of these fairways. There's all these sucker gaps as well. So in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, are they going to play through this line?" Never did. Oh, are they going to play through this line? Never did. Oh, are they going to throw up here? No. So I had to learn the course as well. And from what I heard from the players that I spoke to, they weren't even coming close to fully learning the property until the event was about over. Hole two, for example, a lot of players in the beginning, I saw them throw a lot of flex lines, try to get one out right, fade back to the left. Too much crap to have to miss. Players eventually just started throwing turnover right and then trying to throw over the top. Like stuff like that started to play out through the week. But for me, unfortunately, I haven't gotten to play there because it's so fresh. I did not know where to draw. And if I couldn't see the basket, like I could go through as many drone flyovers as I want. The drone can only fly one line. And that was the line that some people took. Other people did not take anything close to that. So wild course to start the tournament out. Didn't do much day one. Things got super juicy round two, round three. Um, what I found
Insane.
interesting before I let you kind of dive into your experience with FPO
Yeah.
on the MPO side, a couple holes had wonderful scoring spread if you just bumped them up a stroke in par. Hole one, for example, today, it played as like an eagleable par five. And if you called it a par five, it would have four eagles, 39% birdies, 28% par, 28% bogey or worse. That's a great spread. It's a scoreable hole. So actually, it was a pretty dynamic hole despite playing almost a stroke over par. 18, for example, no birdies today. 27% par, 39% bogey, 33% double or worse. Hard hole, call it a par five. It's scoring pretty good. So there were a lot of holes out there that were, I was talking about volatility of scoring. Like, what's the combined percentage of bogey and birdie? And how does it compare against par? Ideally, in my mind, I want to see 25% birdie, 25% bogey or worse, 50% par. I think that's normally a hole that plays pretty well. Um, Sometimes I like it more even across the board. This course had that. So I don't know. I think it played really, really dynamically despite some of the holes playing way over the par that they were assigned. And I think that's what a lot of players' expectations were tailored to.
Yeah, that's some interesting insight about those pars just simply might have been off. And I kind of want to close with my own opinion on this course because there's two things here. The first thing is kind of zooming out and really thinking about like what we're trying to do with the sport. Like what product do we really want to deliver both in person and like online, like the disc golf network. How long do we want these rounds to be? Like, are we really trying to ask people to watch 4 hours and change of disc golf live, or like do we want to try and shorten that up? And how do we build that challenge and make these epic holes and ask these players to do these epic things while also like making this a more like reasonable kind of, you know, chunk of someone's like weekend, like if they want to sit down and watch like 3 hours of live disc golf and get it all in like, so I think that there's some questions that are still open-ended there. And then my thoughts when the course gets this difficult, when the degree of difficulty is turned up this high, what it does is it allows for some of the most mind-bending stuff you will ever see on a disc golf course. Like, some of the lines that I saw achieved this week were some of the best shots I've ever seen in person live in
Wow.
anywhere, which is crazy to say, but, like, a lot of them, I saw an Isaac Robinson shot, and I've seen a lot of Isaac's major championships. I was there on 17 at, WR Jackson when he repeated that line with the FX4 over and over again to win the title there, and some of the lines that he was crafting like 6 hole 6 tee shot yesterday, it's just, like, etched in my memory forever because of how unlikely the shot is, and then when he achieves it, you're just like, you're floored, right? And Rick did that so many times, like, I was there for his eagle yesterday, and it's just not an eagleable hole. Like, that's just not possible, and the next hole isn't really birdieable, but he goes eagle and then birdie, and then birdies the 14th after throwing, like, a 500-foot nuke shot. So, it's those things that when Rick shoots a 10 under par at a course that no one even thought that they could even shoot under par at, it kind of does it just etches itself in the minds of all the players as, like, greatness, and what that does is it just, like, etches itself in history for our sports history, and so when a course isn't hard, that, like, historical feat isn't possible, but then when it's this hard, it, like, all of a sudden allows for history to be told, for history to be made, so I'll kinda close with that about the course. I love it. I think that, of course, it can get cleaned up. Some of the lines can get a little cleaner. Some of the access to the green can actually make some more sense. But all in all, I think that the course was a huge success, and I'm really interested to hear, like, what the fans kind of thought of how it looked on camera, how it looks on Jomez, if it's making sense, and yeah, just their feedback there, Brian.
Well, from the camera perspective, it was a little disorienting, um, and also the course in general. I'll share a little bit of my opinion from what I saw. When you have fairways that are 150, 200 feet wide, were they wider at some points, Nate? Were some of the fairways wider than 200 feet wide at some points?
No, that's probably the widest, but there were some big cathedral type lanes just riddled with trees. But yeah, 200 feet, I'm
But what I'm
thinking.
saying is, in our sport, and what we're going to talk about the whole situation on 16 final round for MPO. When you spread the players out that much, you give them that many viable options that takes them that far away from each other. They automatically break a PDGA rule. You have to watch your other card mates assess their lie and throw their shot, correct? And I feel like in some spots it takes you away from that. And then at that point it takes you away from self-officiating the sport, which is something that a lot of people have been really harping on. And we saw a lack of that. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I think it was just uh, a result of how massive and expansive these fairways are. And I think in pro disc golf, I'm cool with like this course being like this. I love that we have an artist of a designer who poured all this love and thought into it. Keep that. I don't want that style to be every course on tour. OB rope directs traffic. It tells people where they have to go, and it speeds up pace of play. And we're talking about making a product that um, doesn't waste time and doesn't slog. I think if used tastefully, OB rope prevents that and it keeps players in a tighter space, makes it harder to land the disc in bounds because there is an in and out of bounds. It helps scoring spread a lot. And yeah, I don't know. I have a different feeling about OB rope now after seeing this tournament. I think more times than not, I'm fine with courses doing that to keep players honest. Because yeah, it was just very interesting some of the spots we found the players in. But as a lover of disc golf, I would love to go try to play that course. That's for sure. And speaking of which, the FPO layout looked fantastic. I'd love for you to kind of walk through your week doing the FPO division. I didn't get to do it. I watched a little
Yep.
bit, but yeah, bring us in.
Well, before the year started, we kind of gave our picks on how we felt the field was looking, and I really went heavy on. I feel like it's going to be a year of dominance in FPO, and I really feel that Holland is going to lead that charge. I included Missy, I included Silva on that. I think what did I say, 18 wins between the 3 of them or
You
something?
did.
And with Holland getting most of those, and I think that Holland's gonna have her best season, and it really she really displayed that today. I think she's really in a class of her own. Well, we don't have Hannah and Evelina here. I think there's no one that can really match what she's able to do. There were so many times where Holland could just kick back and just deliver like a 60% forehand and get to a spot that they couldn't really get to unless they went like hyper aggressive, crazy late flip, understable driver. And they're just not gonna do that. And so Holland is throwing a shot that, like, looks and probably is somewhat easy for her, and she's getting to a spot that, essentially no one else in the her whole division is getting to, and she did that probably 6 times around. Holland used her power to get to a position where no one else is even approaching from. She's in a category of her own. I think that the only thing that has held Holland back in the past is, like, her ability to manage her emotions when things aren't going her way, and that's a category that, a player like Missy Gannon really excels in, and so they've had a lot of great battles over the years. I just feel and obviously Missy Gannon is an unbelievable putter, and an incredible competitor, but I just feel even with the competitor that Missy is, Silva is, Own is, Holland's just in her own category on as in the power department. And if she continues to show the kind of determination, composure, um, and ability to manage her emotions, like she went bogey on the first and then double on the fourth, nearly tripled it, and she's just like calm and delivers a rope on five and delivers an amazing putt, and then she's just calm on 6 when Missy's, like, hitting, like, 30 footers in her face on 5 and 6. Holland's just chilling, and that's kinda scary for the field. So, I'm still fully in the it's gonna be a year of dominance in the FPO, and I think that I'm still, like, really in Holland's camp in that realm, Brian.
So my thought on Holland versus Missy, it feels like a tortoise and the hare type scenario. And when I say tortoise, when I describe Missy, in Missy, if you hear this, I say this in the most respectful, complimentary way. The tortoise wins at the end of the day. And to me, what this will do, the way that Missy plays, the consistency that she shows, and the way that she plays disc golf in general, is always going to be there when Holland screws up. But if I were to give both of them to play their best golf, right now I'm going to give it to Holland. But if Holland, slips up, she falls victim to her emotions again. Missy doesn't really do that. So Missy's going to keep plugging away. She's going to keep throwing the great stock shots that she throws. She's a fantastic putter when it matters. That's the dynamic between the two of them. And I love when they go head to head. They have two different play styles, two different skill sets. And I think the division's in a really good place right now. Val Monduhano jumped up, tied for second. Lisa Fake is second place again. Big
There's
baller.
4th place SFO, 2nd place here. Like, this is insane. Like,
On these courses?
this is a crazy start to the year for Lisa. I mean, she's gotta be pumped up, and I'm pumped up for her. It's like she's been on the Disc Golf Pro Tour since the beginning. Like, she
Yeah,
was playing national tour events before the Disc Golf Pro Tour was even invented, and she's grinded it out. I can't remember a period of time talking to Lisa where she was like, "I think I'm gonna hang it up."
I know.
You
Yeah, never.
I've just never heard that from her, and yeah, this was I didn't was it the longest course for FPO as well? It was
That
for
I don't know. It
NPO.
was sub 10,000. I
It
feel
was
like
sub
they've played
10,000.
10,000 foot before.
Yeah, so I can't say it was the longest, but there were it was relentless what it was asking the FPO division to do, and Lisa is should be super proud shooting under par, on the weekend and taking 2nd place, and yeah, I can't I just can't wait to come back. I can't wait to see the tweaks that they make there. I think that they're gonna shorten up a couple for FPO, and yeah, they might shorten the par from what I heard too, and just the pace of the par threes is so, enjoyable, and I think there's sections of that layout, like some of those longer par fours and longer par fives, they got a little flat, right? So I'm excited to see the adjustments that they make.
Well, Nate, I think it's a pretty much a done deal here for FPO. I mean, Holland played how she should play, won the tournament by 8 shots. That's a statement going into the next tournament. But
Eight shots.
I will say, you come to Hornets Nest and you play the tips, you play the tough layout at Hornets Nest, I don't care who you are. You're gonna have to have a great week because this is not big, grand, 150-foot wide fairways. There are multiple gaps all the way down these hallways. So, curious to see if Holland has the wherewithal to handle the gaps out there at Hornets Nest, but it's a great start to the year. Had a great tournament last time at Supreme Flight. And, yeah, kinda continuing where she left off. Any other shout outs in FPO that you wanna get to before we move on to all the chaos that happened in the MPO division this weekend?
No more shout outs, man. I really love that disc golf serves up men and women's, events at the same time. Like I hope that this is always the case. I hope it's always the case, Brian. I would be so sad if in a distant timeline the tours split and the women's division has their own league and the men's division has its own league. What's going on right now is not very common out there in the world of sports, and it's still to me very special that I get to start my day off watching essentially one sport and then finish the day watching another sport, and both are incredible. And I have a strong I experience so much joy watching both, for their own ways. I don't think that one is better competition than the other. They're just different in the things that they do, and so it's really special to be able to be a part of that, and yeah, to interview Holland. I will add that Holland wins
Great
on
interview.
18, and then they freaking the Hacienda brass band literally plays and marches over they march Holland over to the VIP tent, and I get to sit down with Holland, and Louisiana is just like the local community is all just around us, and I'm just kicking back, and I'm really getting to ask Holland, like, what it's like to compete against Missy, what it's like to be in total control, even when she was like gave up 3 in the first 4, and and it just all felt so legitimate, if it was probably to me kind of like peak victory, like, honoring her win the most, like, the way that we, like, brought the culture in from the local flavor of New Orleans with the brass band and just how the community was all around us and kinda, like, hanging on her every word. They were laughing at her jokes that she was making about her and Missy, and it was just incredible, Brian. I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it because it feels like we're kind of helping push disc golf in the right direction. Like this is all a lot of these people, it's their first time to a tournament,
Yeah.
and they're seeing this and they're like, "Wow." I had people are coming up and like, "Wow, this is legit." Like, I've been playing
No
since
way.
1990 and this shit's legit, man. Like, he's like, "Great job up there, man." Like, "I didn't know you guys were, like, all pro and stuff." It's just it's cool, man. It's really cool. And Holland got a real kick out of it. She made the joke about she played the did she say the tuba? She played either the tuba or the
I think she was a
trombone.
tuba player.
Okay, one of those, and she was like, "I had no idea. I shoulda brought my instrument." But, yeah, what I really want to unpack here, and it's probably the juiciest, like, podcast material all time, Brian. we're gonna get right into it, I think, and I guess I wanna start with your take on things, and I think we have two really big things to cover, right? We have the incident on hole 16 with the loose debris, and then
In
we
MPO.
have an MPO, that's right, and then we have the situation with the spot in the playoff. So let's start. I wanna hear from your perspective, the situation with the loose debris.
Well, on 16, for those of you who didn't watch it, Ricky throws his tee shot on 16. He kicks to the right rough. He walks up to his lie. There's some sticks in front of his lie that are going to impede his follow through. And after some consideration, we see very clearly on camera, at least from our angle, Ricky takes a stick that's like 4 or 5 feet in front of his lie and moves all of it. And it's one stick and it's attached to some other sticks and there's attached to some other sticks. There's also a tree that's kind of blocking the full extent of what his lie looks like back there. We have a pretty good view. So from our angle, Charlie looks at me. He's like, "What is he doing? That's in front of his lie. You're not supposed to do that." So he calls it out. I'm kind of shocked because again, our angle makes it look like he's completely pulling something that's not even close to his lie and moving it. That's a stroke penalty immediately. But no one says anything. And that got me thinking. These guys are left. These guys might be 100 feet away from Ricky trying to set up for their next shot. Their round is going to take over 4 hours. It's just, it's a catch 22. I love the different options. I love the triple fairway that they have. It's like 4 fairways on 16. It's crazy. But then it separates the card to the point where they can't self officiate. And maybe I'm wrong in saying that. Maybe the correct way is that they're all supposed to walk up behind Ricky. He throws. They all walk to the next lie they throw. Not sure. That's something that maybe needs to be discussed with the players by the operations crew or whoever handles that at the pro tour. Um, but then nothing happens on hole 16. Charlie and I are still very confused. We obviously kind of give benefit of the doubt. I think you whispered or you like got in our ear and you said, "Hey, I feel like the sticks extended past his lie." So we were like, "Okay, great. We'll roll with that." But then it gets brought up again and you have that conversation on 17's T-pad. Jeff Spring, Gannon Burr. I think Gannon, to my knowledge, alerted Jeff Spring, and Jeff brought it up to Ricky. Ricky said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't move loose debris on my second shot." And it was just a big messy situation. And my take on that is I can't see what happened. I had my view from the T cam angle essentially. Ricky is going to have to live with that. That's it. If he was being honest when he said that the sticks extended beyond his lie, whatever. If he was confused about the question, technically Jeff Springs said, "Why did you move the debris?" Which doesn't address what he actually did. So Ricky was a little confused by that, I could tell. Um, but eventually they figured it out. So yeah, Ricky's got to live with that. If he's honest, he'll be able to live with that and be happy with it. If not, that's kind of how the universe works. We'll see. But then 17, after the tense conversation, Gannon hits the 90-footer into the headwind, one of the best putts I've ever seen on the network. And then they go into 18, and then the chaos ensues. Playoff happens, and then we get to the spotter situation. So I'm going to send it to you now because, from my understanding, when we were
Uh-huh.
watching, no,
Well,
no
I
spotters
wanna
in
real
sight.
quick, I wanna talk about the situation from my perspective on Rick's deal, if that's alright.
Yeah, back it
That's
up.
good with you. And I'll add my opinion here, Brian, about the situation with Rick and the sticks on 16, because first I wanna say that Ricky Wysocki is one of the fiercest competitors out there, and also there is not a single, like, ounce of that man that would ever intentionally cheat to win a disc golf tournament. I don't I think that it's kind of silly. I think it's really silly that anybody would try and flame him, for if he makes a mistake on the course and he gets a penalty or doesn't get a penalty, that's one thing. But to insinuate that he's going to intentionally cheat and try and break the rules so
On
that he
camera.
wins the tournament is just ridiculous. Like, the man is one of the legends of the game, and, like, you don't become that fierce of a competitor if you don't have integrity. They don't go together. Like, the greats in all sports all have the utmost integrity. It's just it's a part of building character that makes you who you are. And I don't care what anyone says, like, the man did not intentionally cheat. Now, having said that, I feel that the sticks were in front of his lie and that it is a very heat of the moment thing. He moved some sticks that were back that were extending through his lie, and then he went and picked up sticks that I felt like were not connected. And I think that Ricky made a mistake in that situation. And Gannon Burr was about 30 feet behind Rick,
Oh,
maybe 10 feet to the left,
so not that far.
and was watching him. And as soon as Rick moved his stuff that was in front of the live, Gannon was like, "Wait a second, what is going on here?" And then Gannon walked straight to Jeff Spring and was like, "I don't know what's going on here. He's moving these sticks that are in front of his lie." And I thought right when it happened that they all should have had the discussion right then and there. And I think it would have been a lot different of a situation if Gannon and Luke Taylor and Jeff all walked right up to Rick and says, "Hey, what's going on? You just moved this stick. It didn't seem like that was behind your lie." And I think the outcome would have been much different because all this time passed, and then Jeff Spring was trying to have a discussion about get very clear on the rule with the PDGA official on the phone. Once he got clear what the rule is, he brought it up to the card for the card to decide because he felt like Luke Taylor and Gannon Burr had a very clear line of sight on it. Gannon was the one who brought it up in the first place. It wasn't Jeff that brought it up. Gannon brought it up initially from what he witnessed. And so they talked to Ricky about it. And Ricky at first seemed really confused, wasn't sure what they were talking about. Then they got clear that he was talking about a second shot and moving the sticks, and that there were two instances of him moving the sticks. The first one was like they felt like it was behind his lie. The second one, he didn't. Rick said that they were all connected and that it was behind his lie, and quickly was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It's behind my lie." In my mind, from what I got from that, I feel like Ricky thought maybe that they were all connected still because it's kind of just crazy in the rough, and like a thorn could be laying across a branch that's like 10 feet in front of him or something. But what happened was they were Jeff basically told them, "Hey, it's your decision, Gannon and Luke, in the card's decision." Isaac was like, "Hey, I was on the other side of the fairway. I did not see it." And so it came down to Gannon Burr and Luke Taylor, who both felt like the sticks were in front of his lie. And they told Ricky that. Ricky looked at them and said, "No, it was behind my lie." And Gannon, it was essentially on Gannon. And honestly, I have a lot of respect for this situation because it's really interesting because I feel that Gannon and Luke thought that it was in front of his lie, but they both looked at him and said, "Okay, we trust you. We're not gonna penalize you in this situation. We trust you if it was behind your lie." And to me, I feel like that is the right thing happened there because of this. If we zoom out again, Brian, if Gannon calls Ricky Wysocki for moving sticks in front of his lie when it's not like it might be 99% clear from his perspective, but 100 not 100% clear because maybe a stick is, like, extending past it. That's, like, on his reputation as
Yeah.
such a young kid, everything that he's gone through, like, everything with Prodigy, changing companies, like, the constant time violations and everything, like, he's just trying to play this game, and then all of a sudden, his rival, he's gonna tell him, like, "You get a penalty stroke." So, if you're Gannon, like, what do you do? Do you really try and push for that penalty in the moment? I don't know, I don't think you do. I just don't think you push for that penalty, and you let it play out, and he came out on top without the penalty. You just said it, he made one of the putts of his career on the next hole, made one of the up and downs of his career on the 18th, and I'm thankful it didn't come down to that penalty stroke. But yeah, it's a sticky situation, and I feel like I'm pretty clear on how I've relayed it, and I stand pretty firmly about it. I think Ricky did make a mistake, but again, do I think Ricky intentionally is trying to cheat? Absolutely not. And I also feel that Gannon and Luke kind of did the right thing, letting it play out. Brian,
Self-officiated games, especially when they're, like, on these massive pieces of property. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know. Send us an email. All birdies, no bogeys. Or what? No, sorry. Back up. abnbpod@gmail.com. Sorry.
yeah, I
Send us an
really
email.
want to hear what people think about this
What
for
is your
sure.
thought on this? And also, what is the optimal way of going about a tournament at a course like this that's so massive, so wide? Is it the whole card following to each lie? Like, how do we self officiate appropriately and also like follow the PDGA rule of watching everybody shot attentively? Also, as if it couldn't get any crazier, 17 happens. Gannon hits the putt. Ricky hits his putt so clutch, prevents it from being a
Crazy.
tie ball game going into 18. 18 happens. And like I said, actually scoring really balanced. I went into the hole and I was pleasantly surprised to see that it still somehow had a decent spread. It was still going to be a some sort of stroke swing. It was 46% par, 35% bogey, and then 16% double bogey or worse on the weekend with 3 birdies. And that was actually something Ricky called out the week before the tournament. He said it was gonna be 3 birdies exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I can't even walk through the whole shot by shot. All I can remember is that when Ricky was in trouble, Gannon not only threw a great shot, he stepped up to that lie and he had that snaky inside line. So difficult, such a tight line. He had that PD in his hands. It was going to have to be the most delicate flex shot, super low percentage. And then it almost felt like last second he was like, oh, I can just throw over the top, which I was trying to avoid all day, and threw an absolute dime, made the putt. Ricky cashes the 55 footer again, of course.
It was insane.
But then we
The
could
up
have
and
won.
down the up and down was insane from Rick.
Yeah.
If you remember Gannon's interview, he said the reason he audibled on that 3rd shot, Brian, was because he was practicing the forehand, like, he was stepping, and he matted the grass down so much with his lead foot that it became slick, and so he kinda took the forehand option out of play on his own on his own. And that over the top shot is it's not just like, "Oh, I can go over the top now, it's a cop out." Like,
It's a big
the
boy
line
shot.
he actually had to shape was insane. PD2 just over the crest, through a gap after it gets over the first one, and then still kind of lifting and then spiking down to be where he was, like, 16 feet away from it's just it's I don't think anyone else in the field is really gonna do that in that moment. I just it's the number one player in the world that's gonna get that done. And to me, I felt like it was over because I felt like there was absolutely no way that Rick was getting out of where he was. And then he gets to his lie and all of a sudden sees a gap and then within 10 seconds just chops it out there to 55, like knowing he's gonna make the putt.
So
It's
we
crazy.
got to move on to one because this is what was really bewildering to me. We step up as these shots come into the green. Gannon throws his, Ricky throws his. Our angle, it's clearly out of bounds. There's no question. It fades in front of that grouping of trees. Yeah, no way it crossed. Where he took it was the perfect spot. But this is my confusion, and I'd love for you to enlighten me on this because I feel bad that this is how we positioned it on the broadcast because it was strange. There looked like there were 0 spotters out there, but you just told me before the show started there were 2. So my question is, what went down out there? You told me it was one of the most chaotic experiences on the green of a disc golf course you've ever been a part of.
It was crazy, Brian. I was with the catch cam. I was at the back edge of the circle. I had a clear line of Rick and his hyzer, and it was really it was really far away, and he had a little bit of a head right to left, so he was gonna get some carry, but not a lot. And there was a spotter to my left, so he had what I would say not the best view of it because we don't have the full depth. We don't have the full depth read, right? The best view would kinda be to the side and if you're looking straight at the swamp and not looking straight back toward Ricky, or if you're from Ricky's view looking toward the basket, that is also not the best view. So there was a spotter near me that had a good view, but not the best view. And then there was another spotter that had a much better view. He was just short of the swamp, over by the guardrails that was near the road where all the spectators were lined. But what happened, what I saw was that Ricky's shot was it splashed in the water, and I didn't think that it crossed on our side. But what happened was when he starts walking up, all the fans nearest to me that were like pin high between the swamp and pin high, the fans were shouting, "You crossed up here, you crossed up here," all together,
Yeah, we
like
heard that.
unanimously. They're like, "You crossed up here." And the spotter's, like, walking up as Rick's walking up. The spotter's walking up to come mark him on the other side, and then other people start yelling at the spotter, "No, no, no, he didn't cross, he's back there." And the spotter's just like, "Whoa, what do I do? What do I do?" And so he marks one up in, like, circle 1 at first, like 30 feet, and I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Like, these fans so there were some players in the group of fans who were also telling the spotter where to mark it. And then the other spotter comes up and is like, "Wait, I had a better look. I think he went out here." And this is where it got even crazier from my perspective because, what should really happen in this situation is Ricky and Gannon and the marshal and the 2 spotters should all come together, and they should have a conversation in an insulated space. Like, they just need to talk with each other. And instead, what happened is a shouting match. Okay, so Ricky's coming over, Gannon's coming over, everyone is shouting at them. He's up here, he's back there. All of a sudden, there are other players, I'm not gonna name them. There are other Disc Golf Pro Tour touring players who are yelling at Rick, "You didn't cross, you were back here," which to me, it's just out of line. Right? It's not your place. It's not your place to shout and put your opinion in it. It's the decision is amongst the card, and when you're in a playoff, right, it's amongst the card and the marshal, and I think the spotters can have a vote in that.
Of course.
Um, and so it was just wild, Brian. There were players and fans, like, shouting. I feel that the right decision was made. I felt like it was pretty clear that he was short, but it's still it unfolded it in a weird way, in a icky way, you know, just with the
Yeah.
shouting and with everyone deciding like it's their input should be heard to determine this outcome. And so yeah, Ricky, you know, he didn't put up a fight for too long. He made his case, which I don't think was too far off the mark. If he didn't cross, it was like you know, it was a few feet out there in the pond. He was like, "Hey, it could have crossed right here." It was I swung it pretty wide. They're saying it went over the tree because a lot of people were telling him it went over the tree. Other people were telling him it went in front. So he didn't put up a fight for too long after making his case, and he went to his lie, attempted to putt, missed it, and yeah, that ended the tournament.
I don't even know what that's like. I've done on-course for some of the most rowdy moments in disc golf. Being on course at Maple Hill is always like that for me. But I've never had, like, an angry environment like that. I've never had, like, an intense environment where it doesn't feel good being out there. Obviously, you said this event was phenomenal, but it's sad that it had to finish the way it did. My question to you is 2 things. Should there be now, again, that we're having these Pro Tour and Elite Series events, uh, rules being made, should we, for playoffs, for the win, allow certain types of documentation to be viewed, um, in order to make sure we have a clear winner, like video evidence. Um, the players are watching DGN on the course. Gannon watches DGN all the time. Should there be a rule against that, to give them an advantage in self officiating? The other question I have, actually, first, I'll have you answer this question. Go ahead.
Mhm. I think absolutely. Like they should be able to pull up the drone pretty quick. They should have got together. They should be able to pull up the drone and then they can let Ricky and let Gannon look at it and then they can clear it up. Um I think a lot of people were talking about there should be an official spotter, which I think is not the move to kind of take um the vote out of the players' hands until we're to the point where it's official across the board and marshals are on every hole making the call. I think that for sure we should be able to use replay, especially when it comes to a playoff and when it matters for the title, you know.
Yeah, I think if it's at an event that's being streamed live, I think there should absolutely, for playoffs, be video evidence to make sure we have a clear winner, and it should be used as like a last resort. I don't think it should be the first thing you go to. I think if you guys can't come to an actual conclusion, you can absolutely watch that. The other thing is with the official spotter, I think it still could be on the right hole a playoff specific thing, or I don't know because right now those spotters volunteers, fantastic people that came, stepped up, and did something great for the sport of disc golf. Some of these holes would not be playable in a competitive setting if we didn't have spotters. Hole 1 in particular for this exact reason. But then they get thrown into a situation as a volunteer where they're deciding the fate that comes out to thousands of dollars for these people. So it's like this great volunteer thing and then it turns into this very real serious job. And I don't know where the line is, but to me, it feels like playoffs should have some sort of specific rules in regards to making sure it's not just he said, she said type stuff. That's just my thought.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we're still figuring it out and you know what? Honestly, with how crazy the two things were, I think both calls were I think the right thing happened on both
They
instances.
did. They were.
I really do. I don't think it crossed. I don't think that Ricky was dealt some bad hand He threw that hyzer OB. Um, yeah, and the right person, it came out on top. The competitor who played the course better. 11 under was what you needed to get into the playoff, which is crazy to think.
Was it really 11
This has
down?
to be. I don't even have to look up stats. Like that's for sure the lowest to par of any tournament that I've been a part of since the inception of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. There has not been a higher to par score that won the title. The lowest I can think of, Brian, is 19 under par by James Conrad at the USDGC in 2019, and that's a 4-round tournament. 4 rounds, 19 under par. I don't think there's much that comes close to 11 under for a 3-round tournament to win it. Maybe Colton Montgomery's, win at Waco, which is 2 rounds, but even that, I think he shot double digits in the second round alone.
Yeah, he went crazy the final stretch.
Yeah, it's like getting multiple eagles and stuff, but yeah, 11 under is just it's crazy to think Gannon didn't have the lead,
Ever.
right?
Not one time.
Ever.
Yeah.
He didn't have it until tying into the playoff, so it's a crazy tournament, and, yeah, I think that the course and this event, I think it's gonna be one of our best events. Um, if this wasn't already like a top 5 event, from my perspective being here, even with all this chaos, like the people, the proximity to New Orleans, like after my round yesterday, my dad drove from, he's in Italy, Texas, just south of Dallas. Like he drove 10 and a half hours to get here on Friday, and he got himself a hotel, and he was hanging out at the course all day, and then yesterday we went to Frenchman Street, which is in the French Quarter, one of the more honestly, one of the more historic, uh, culturally rich, like, hubs of the entire country, right? There's no other place like Tremé, like the French Quarter, the Louis Armstrong Park, that borders French Quarter and Tremé, it's like it's where jazz was invented, right? And there's just the visuals down there are incredible. All the historical buildings with all the, like, the iron kind of, rails that kind of line the balconies. It's in incredible, like, delicate, like, French architecture on the iron rails, and there are people dancing in the streets. There's marching bands literally parading through the streets at all times of the year. Like, there wasn't even, like, a festival or anything this week, and I probably after we saw Big Sam's Funky Nation at the Blue Nile last night from 8 to 9:30, and then we left the Blue Nile at about 10, and there was a brass band on the corner, and they were jamming. All of a sudden, there's 250 people around this brass band on the corner, and everyone is just dancing and grooving and tipping the band. And the brass band's like, we got a crowd, and they probably played. I left before they finished playing. Like they probably played for like an hour. I saw like later, like Paige Pierce and Hebenheimer, like there, like an hour later, same brass band on the corner, and that's just like one of probably 20 bands that are playing on the streets, like gathering a
Wow.
crowd. Like there's not a lot, there's no place like New Orleans, but there's just not a lot of places that have even that same like possibility of energy that this city has. And the course is just like 25 minutes away from all this. So I really think that it if this continues, and this will continue to be a staple on the tour, like, we can build this up, and people can, like, make this a destination disc golf tournament, Like, it's like, "You wanna go on a trip? Well, come to New Orleans."
Yep.
You know, whether you like the casino, whether you like jazz or funk or just partying in the street, you wanna walk on Bourbon, the bars don't ever close on Bourbon Street. The disc golfers went to a Savannah Bananas, game at the
Yep.
Superdome. It was sold out. There were 70,000 people, Brian, and then they all just, like, paraded over to Bourbon Street, and so people can make this, like, their one of their trips of the year, and then they can just, like, add the Disc Golf Pro Tour, the Big Easy Open, like, to it, you know, they don't have to travel for just the tournament. They can we can just coexist with everything that's going on here. And yeah, I just can't say enough good things about what we're building here and what how Jefferson Parish believes in disc golf and how much money they're putting into it. And yeah, what I really see here for the future.
We had been talking about this all year last year about how Europe, and we looked at the World Championships as a prime example, and Estonia, what they're doing with the festival over there. They're getting that type of government support where they're starting to believe in disc golf at a much grander scale. And I felt like disc golf was missing that to an extent. I feel like obviously there is some of that, but I felt like we have so much more room to grow. And I feel like we have a lot more inertia to push up against in our country because disc golf is seen so differently here than it is in a place like Finland. But this tournament made me believe that it's possible. And again, I'm hoping that it's a wildfire effect. I'm hoping that these tourism dollars start to come in, people start to see what the economic impact looks like, and they start to say, "Hey, I feel like our town can have this. I feel like our tourism bureau can invest money into this as well and put a championship disc golf facility out here and bring this exciting sport out." I can't tell you how happy I am that it was such an exciting finish to the event. It was so dramatic. It was so entertaining. And I also love that the players all know they're here to put on a show just as much as they are here to compete against each other. Ricky and Gannon both mentioned they're here to put on a show, and I love it. They did, and it was chaotic. It was beautiful. It was some of the best disc golf that I've ever seen. Same thing that you said, man. Some of the lines that they threw out there were some of the best that I feel like we're going to see all year. Um, and the course I think is so close. I'm going to close things out. I'm going to let you take it away after this. I'm going to go through this course. I'm going to tell you what holes I want changed and like what I'd like changed.
Cool.
I'm starting backwards on 18. I actually was on the telestrator. I was slicing this one tree, the kind of early gap. I know I got a little rogue with it. I went Nate Perkins on him. Um, and I sliced the one tree. I was like, if you just cut this little guy down, it might turn into a little bit better of a par four because I still think, even though it scored well as a par five, I think the players want to see it as a sick par four to finish. I do love an eagleable par five. Don't get me wrong. I think that's great. I just don't think it's set up to be a par five. Hole number four is so close to being spectacular. There's got to be some way to make it more tempting to bait the players to go to the canal on their first shot. And you might have a better idea of what that needs to be. I don't know if that far clump of trees needs to be thinned out on the left. Something to do with getting out there, clearing the OB at 475 is such a tall ask, but there's that guardian tree right in the middle that makes it so hard. But if that goes away, it might be too easy. What do you think?
I think we need to you're talking about 4 again, right? Just to
Par
clarify.
five. Yep.
Yeah, for I think we need to make it to where the first shot is asking them to land over by the canal, if they want the eagle. I think that the left, like, I I I I love the plan, but I also think that there's not a lot of moments where we're asking for a full rip in open airspace, but we have an opportunity on the fourth, right? And I think that canal, the one downside is that you like if a player does like pull it, like their disc is gone forever, which is kind of sad because you're gonna have I don't know what you're gonna have. You're gonna have a lot of lost disc there, like, over the practice week, and if you're asking them to play out over the canal, but I don't know if that's really our problem, the players losing their discs, but, I think that we should be playing out there by the canal at least twice. I also think we should have another hole up there that, like, tees off the dock and, like, has, like, a sweet, like, kinda we're kinda cutting off some of the canal, and you're throwing back into the woods somewhere on the very next hole. But yeah, to further, detail out my answer to your question is the first shot was putting people in a position where they're like, "Okay, I guess I kinda have to go out right now," and then I just am playing back in fringe and then throwing like a kinda getting scrappy and throwing an approach there. I almost think that we need to, like, clear some of the fringe out, like, into that landing zone so that they actually do get rewarded if they're playing out toward the canal and can, like, have some space to throw. So maybe that means moving the tee box up and taking those clusters of trees out to actually make the eagle line feasible,
Yeah.
where they have to throw like 360, land it out to the landing zone, which is a 500-foot hyzer
Yeah,
into the
exactly,
green,
and they
right?
have to
So
play chicken
if
with
they
the out of
go
bounds, yeah.
Yep, yep. If they go 360, kinda slight turnover, land it flat before the canal, then they can go 500 hyzer if they want the eagle, or they can, you know, throw 300, 300, 300, or whatever it turns out to be. Um, I think that Isaac Robinson's shots that he went back to
Oh,
back, we're talking about Isaac
oh
again.
my god.
His shot yesterday absolutely floored me, and then he threw it even better today. Like, I'm watching from the side, but I'm seeing him just cork nose down any driver, and it doesn't hit anything, and it's still flying, and it doesn't hit anything, and then it misses everything, and it's flying like 460 through this, like, tunnel that is 10 feet high with 100,000 trees. It's just crazy. It was crazy.
100,000 trees.
It was freaking crazy, dude.
So then I think my last 13's gotta change. It's just gotta thin out a little bit, but I actually there's also 100,000 trees on that one. I can't tell you where I would change anything. Hole 12. This is my last one. I'm not gonna go on too long of a rant. I think 12 is so close to being so cool, but is the over the top line that cool? Or should we force them to go up the gut somehow? Because that fairway is tough. And then when they get out there, they go past that short tee through that gap. That's a hard gap. No one's going for that. Nobody's ever going to try throwing that. So you never get to experience the early part of that fairway. And it doesn't play as this challenging, brutal par five. But maybe John wanted us to go over the top. Um, what do you think? Were you fine with the way it played?
No, I thought that that section was probably the most underwhelming section was like 11, 12, 13. Kind of the approach on 14, the position on 14. It just especially 11 and 12, like the all of those tiny trees on the left of 11, it wasn't clean. Like the cleanest shot on that hole was a 4-foot wide gap that you had to, like, throw an inside out hyzer flip that landed at 35 feet. That was like, it was a 400-foot shot, and I saw it done. Joseph Anderson did it one day. I think Isaac did it today too, but it's just a little too extreme, and then on 12, the over the top shot is cool, but there's just bunkers everywhere. So, they're not trying to precisely land it anywhere. They're just, like, bombing it and scrambling, and bombing it and scrambling, and honestly, Rick's eagle is just a bomb, and then he's got enough room, and then he's just bombing it
Bombing a
again,
bomb.
and he's like, "Ah, I got through. Let me make this putt." And that's not what you want, right? And so when you lose that, when you don't have like that, at least a couple of like, this is where you want to land, either here or here, it just the whole loses it has no idea. You're just bombing and scrambling. You don't know I don't know even, "Hey, is this a good spot?" I can walk up and see if he has a lane, but it's like he's technically in a Chinese tallow bunker of trees. He just happens to have a lane because he wasn't left or right, so it just increases, like, the luck factor of it, and so that section, I think, was the most underwhelming for me.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just go build my own triple bando out there. It won't be a little triple bando. I'll just go out there and build it and say, you just have to cross through this. Then do whatever you want. But just go under this little thing. I got to direct the traffic somehow. That's my only other thing. And then 14, something with the distances need to change. Charlie made the comment that if they want this to stay the same, the mounds that John was building should be short. So if you want to lay up, you have bad footing, and then it entices the players to potentially go longer. I think the 475 clear is just a little bit too big of an ask. Actually, I think it was closer to 500 to clear, is what you said. Um, and that's it. I mean, there's some other tweaks, but I know that it's going to happen. Like, this was the first time that John got real feedback from people on a massive design. This is a huge disc golf course. This is like a sci-fi novel that's 1,000 pages. You get through it one time, congratulations. You probably missed three-quarters of the things you were supposed to understand going through that book. So, kudos to him for pulling this together. I think
Good
for him,
comparison.
I bet he is breathing easy tonight. I bet he's like, okay, we're good. We got the first one out of the way. You can always take trees away. You cannot put them back once they're cut. And I
Yep,
understand that big time.
yep.
And next year, I have a feeling it's gonna be spectacular, and, it sounds like there's, like, 5G towers being built, they're gonna fix the cell
There are,
signal.
dude.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's so cool, and I hope it inspires other municipalities to begin doing the same thing. I'm so happy, and, yeah, our sport still has a long way to go, rules and regulations wise, but that's why we're here. We're here to have these conversations. Nate, any final words for the people?
Again, I gotta close with just how grateful I am to be, walking around this prehistoric, like, area for I'm doing, like it's like 10 to 12 miles a day on the course is what I'm doing, which is, a decent day, even for me. I love to hike. I love long hikes, but I feel it in my feet. I feel it in my lower back when I'm done with the day, but I don't complain for a second because it's so fun to just simply walk through the area. I saw so many alligators
Ugh.
this week. It was incredible. I never saw a venomous snake, which is such a bummer because so many players saw cottonmouths and timber rattlers, but I never laid eyes on a venomous one this week. And I've just met so many fans. So many fans came up and like, dude, I still have a night strike. I had a couple of fans I had a
Nice.
couple fans that were like the dude looked at me and he was, like, really serious. He's like, Perk, when are you gonna get back on your grind, man?" Like, he's like, "Beaver State Fling? Masters Cup?" He's like, "When are you gonna actually, like, get back on your grind? You know what I mean?" And I'm like, like, it really hit me. I'm like, "I need to get back on the grind." I'm playing those tournaments later, but and I'm motivated to play, but I really I talked to 100 people that came up, shook my hand, and it's so fun to engage with the people that make this sport, like, worth showcasing, worth, touring around, like, that's what really, drives it is the people that, are entertained by it, the people that wanna watch it, and this community and, where they all people were coming from Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Georgia, like, from all over the Southeast to come to New Orleans and watch this tournament. A lot for a lot of people here, I think for the majority of the people here, this was their first Disc Golf Pro Tour
For
tournament,
sure.
and I got to meet a lot of them, and they had great things to say about the tour. They expressed a ton of gratitude themselves for us coming here and for the work on Disc Golf Network and Jomez and all the I'll close with this, right? Like, what we do, Brian, like, what we do it on the ground, in the booth, is under constant scrutiny, right? Like people are always like zooming in on every little
Yeah,
word you say, and they want to pick you apart, and they want to try and bring you down. But that's just like the 1 in 1,000, right? That's this tiny fraction that comes out on the internet and says, "You suck at your job," right? But in reality,
sometimes I do.
there's hundreds of people that come up to you and say, "Thank you for what you do." Like, "Thank you for the commitment. Thank you for the passion that it comes through clearly." So, I just wanna thank them and, yeah, thanks New Orleans, Jefferson Parish, everyone that made this happen. It was really sweet to be out there with you guys.
Well, Nate, since you shared some nice stories, I'm going to share a story that happened recently as well. Um, while we're counting our blessings, I had a wonderful moment. I've been working with this kid, Levi Hefner. He's a juniors player in Charlotte. He's 14 now. My first lesson with him was when he was 9 or 10 years old. His dad, Mark, is a listener of the show. So, Mark, great guy. If you're listening, reached out, wanted me to work with this kid. He throws all sidearm, loves disc golf. I was there really for the first time helping him learn the backhand mechanics. And then recently, week ago, we go out to play a little disc golf. We meet up every now and then to throw the ultimate disc. We meet up every now and then to play disc golf now. Levi aces twice in a single round, once with a forehand and once on hole 2 FPO across the water at Hornets Nest. He aces it
What?
air shot and loses his mind. And
Incredible.
it was the most, like, awesome thing for both of us. I mean, we ran down the fairway of the, actual hole 2. I was, like, filming him the whole time. We got it all on camera. It was just special, man, because, like, when I was a kid, like, I didn't have anybody to, like, teach me disc golf. I had, like, the old heads at the league that would, like, yell at me to not use my finger on the rim, stuff like that. I never got to actually work with somebody, and I so desperately wanted to back then, but there was nobody doing that. Nobody taught lessons back when I started playing disc golf. So it was just so cool to watch someone have a highlight day like that, acing twice. Um, and it made me remember why I do all this. This kind of stuff is like it's cool. Being on camera is cool. Being a representative of top level disc golf is great. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty special game that we play. And, yeah, love all this stuff that you're doing out there, Nate. You're just a phenomenal on-course guy, man. You're my all-time favorite. You're also my favorite color commentator in disc golf too. You're a host. That's what you do now, but I love your color commentary. You're a phenomenal storyteller, and, nobody
Yes,
does it
the
like you,
thorns?
man.
How about the thorns? I mean, thanks for all the kind words today. The the thing about the thorns today, did you get that one? I
Which
don't
one?
know. Was it I was talking it might have been on FPO, Brian, but it was like it was like Valerie and I were talking about, like, what people call thorns in
Oh,
different
prickers?
areas. Yeah, it was like, briars or thorns, Val calls them prickers, and then I was like I was like, "Well, the scientific term is smilax," and I just heard Charlie, laughing in the background. Like, I'm giving him the Latin term for the it's fun. It's fun. My background is in ecology, evolution, and animal behavior, so it's like it's super fun for me to like talk about like the species of a snake or bird, and yeah, it's crazy that it's a job. It's crazy.
Well, you did it. The dream is real. And we are still working together after all these years. Nate, it's a pleasure. You're my bud. Can't wait to see you again. Can't wait to work with you again.
Yeah,
Good night,
this was great,
folks.
man.
What
Yeah,
a
good
great
night,
week.
guys.
Bye. We're done. We're tired. It's almost midnight. Bye.